Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here and for being on time. We really appreciate it. My name is Maria Luisa Garnica, and I am an Education USA advisor in Guatemala City. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what elements to include in your checklist for your best fit, for looking for your options, for searching your options in your undergraduate journey. So we're going to begin by getting an overview of the agenda for today, all right? So we're going to, of course, give you the welcome, and then we're going to explain what is Education USA, in case you don't know. And then we're going to talk a little bit about all of these different categories that you can explore and talk about and reflect on, so you can find the best fit for you. We're going to talk about what does best fit really mean. And we're going to have a guest speaker, a student who's going to share with us a little bit about his experience when searching for his best option, his best fit. And then we'll move on to the question and answer section. A couple of things that we need to remember is that we are in a live event. So we need to stay conscious of that. And please, if you're on Zoom or if you're on Facebook, all right, you can drop your questions in the comment section or the chat box. And we have our Education USA team with us. They're going to help us out and help you answering questions if they're quick to answer in the moment, or we are going to respond to them at the end of the session. We are also going to have a couple pop-up polls and quizzes on the Zoom version. So if you are able to be on Zoom, please answer. You'll know what I mean in a moment. And if you're on Facebook, please let us know your answer in the comment section as well, okay? So let's get started. So today, maybe we have people from various different places in the world, and I want to explore a little bit about what countries and what regions are represented here. So you should be getting a poll on your screen that asks you, where are you joining us from? Where are you visiting us from? Maybe it's North America, maybe it's Central America, maybe it's the Caribbean, or maybe you're joining us from another place in the world. Like I said before, you can write your answer in the comment section if you're joining us on Facebook, and or answer please the poll on screen. You are also seeing a link to a form. This Google form, you can fill it out, you can copy it, take a picture of it and fill it out. This is a short form so that we can know what kind of interests you have, how best can we help you as Education USA, okay? So let's check it out. Who is joining us and where are they joining us from? So we have a lot of Central America and the Caribbean and other regions in the world. Awesome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. We're really happy to be doing this regional effort. And so now we're going to dive into what is Education USA, because maybe you're wondering what we are and why we're here. So Education USA is a network of advising centers. Yes, there's more than 400 advising centers, and we are supported by the Department of State of the United States. And our objective is to help out and provide accurate information and guidance to people like you who are interested in pursuing higher education in the United States. We do all sorts of things, all sorts of events. Currently, we are working 100% virtually, such as today. We are doing different kinds of sessions, webinars. We sometimes do joint efforts with US higher education institutions. And of course, we offer one-on-one advising, which is a space where you can talk to us about your questions specifically, and we can walk you through and solve any questions that you may have. You can see down there the website. You can visit educationusa.state.gov. where there's a lot of resources. And I'm going to, like I said, we're going to walk through a lot of elements and categories. But remember, whenever there's questions, write them down and then make sure to reach out to your Education USA advising center, the closest to you. I'll show you how to find your advising center later on, so don't worry about that. So let's do a little bit about a fun exercise over here. So take a moment, take 5 seconds, and get a number in your head about how many colleges and universities you think there are in the United States. It doesn't matter if you already know, play along, yes? So get a number in your head, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, okay? So there are 4,700 universities and colleges in the US. So that's a lot, all right? But you also have to realize that the US is a large country with a lot of people, and therefore there are a lot of options. And this means that there is high quality education for you that offers diversity and flexibility in the curriculum. Therefore, you can tailor it to whatever you're interested in and mix it up, right? And also you have a very valuable experience in the cultural exchange element. You'll be able to interact as an international student with people from the US and people from around the world. It's a very, very valuable and exciting destination. And that's what I want you to go to know and to conclude from this big number. It's not so much as overwhelming, but as it is exciting. There are lots of exciting possibilities. And this is where the best fit notion comes in. The idea of finding what suits you best, what suits you and your needs and your desires and your requirements in among all of these options, okay? So we're going to talk about 5 main categories that each have different elements that you can reflect upon to, go writing what are those things that you must have in your undergraduate experiences, and what are some of those things that they'll be cool, but not necessarily a deal breaker. Okay, we're going to talk about institution type, the region in the US, which is going to lead us to the setting within the campus and outside the campus, the academics, of course, which is a very important and relevant element, and the finances category, okay? Just a quick housekeeping reminder. Remember, you can write your questions in the chat box. In Zoom, we have co-hosts from the Education USA team. So please write to a co-host, Margaret Mo Burke. She is gathering all the questions, but you can reach out to any of the co-hosts. And on Facebook, we also have Maria Mercedes Salmon helping us out with monitoring and seeing all of the comments. So thanks so much. So let's dive into the institution type. Sometimes we hear different kinds of names, college, university, private, public. What does all of that mean? It is important to understand one of the differentiations between public and private. Basically, when you're talking about public institutions in the US, you are looking at universities that have funds from the state that they belong to. This means that the money that sustains that university is coming from the same state, and therefore they give preferential and lower tuition to the students who come from that state. So that's when you find in-state and out-of-state tuition. As an international student, you are not from that state, and therefore you would not qualify for in-state tuition, which tends to be a lot lower. So say you have a student from California who wants to study in a state university in Michigan. That student is not going to get the in-state Michigan tuition to attend a university in Michigan, okay? But that student will get that in-state tuition if he or she went to a university in California, where they're from, okay? And then we have private universities and colleges, and that means their funds come privately. And generally, the tuition costs are the same if you're from that state where that university or college is in, or if you're an international student or out of state. And then we have this colleges versus university term that is basically pretty much used interchangeably. This is, we can talk a little bit about history and see how higher education came up in the United States. And it started with colleges, which tend to be smaller institutions that offer different kinds of degrees. Now, when you look at a university, you're thinking perhaps a larger institution that has many colleges within it, except you cannot use university and colleges interchangeably, except when you're talking about community colleges, for example, which are 2-year academic institutions where you can get an associate's degree or meet requirements to then transfer to a 4-year institution that can be a college or a university. And we have liberal arts colleges, which are 4-year institutions where you can get your undergraduate degree that focus on a core curriculum and motivate you to have broader perspectives than just the field that you're choosing. This can be a little bit complicated to understand, but don't worry. Like I said before, EducationUSA is here to help you out. So if there are still things that are confusing, please let us know in the comment sections or the chat box, and or reach to your EducationUSA Advising Center. The student population element, that is a very important and variable category. There can be very small universities that have less than 2,000 students and large universities that can go way beyond 15,000 or more. So this is an element for you to consider in regards to what you would like. Would you like to be in a large campus where there's a lot of people, maybe there's a lot of infrastructure, or would you like to have a more small experience with less students, perhaps smaller class sizes, etc.? This element also walks into the number of international students. How many international students do you want to interact with? Do you want to be in an institution that has a lot of international students, or do you want to have less international students and more US citizens in your student population? These are all valid questions that you should think about and reflect and write it down. Think about what would you like. Just have fun with it. Now, selectivity. There are universities that accept, 8% of the students that apply to the school, and there are universities that accept 80% of the students that apply to that school. How does your profile, how do your grades, your extracurriculars, your activities that you've done, your achievements, how does that match the selectivity of the school that you're looking to get into? That is a reality check. You have to dream big, but also keep your feet on the ground, all right? So it's important to look at the selectivity of your school and play it smart. Other elements to consider can, be in regards to maybe you wanting a special program. Maybe you're into some kind of artistic field or science field, and you want to make sure that your university has that, offers that. And then there is institutions that follow a certain religion. Perhaps you want your institution to be part of a certain religious denomination, or to have the ability to continue practicing your own beliefs and religion. And there's campuses that are all male or all female. So pretty much the institution type includes lots of variables that are very important for you to consider. And I would say play with it. Take a moment to feel how X or Y element that feels to you, If it feels fun and exciting, then write it down. If it doesn't, and if it feels like you're forcing it, maybe let it go or put it on hold until later. So now we're going to talk about region. And I'm gonna send another poll, okay? The regions in the US, the regions in the US are divided in 4. Oh, it's not letting me see the next poll, but it's okay. We'll talk about the regions. So there are 4 main regions in the US. We have the West, the Midwest, the South, and the Northeast. In the West of the country, you'll find states that are very large. You know, it's the largest region of the country. You have states like Washington State, California, Colorado, Wyoming, yes. And then you have the Midwest, which is kind of middle United States. You have states that are closer to close to the Great Lakes, like Michigan. Then you have Ohio, which is down south from Michigan, and you also have spaces like Minnesota, which get really strong winters. And then you have the south of the country, which tends to be warmer, right? We get Florida, we get Louisiana, we get Kentucky, and Alabama. So you get states that have a warmer climate and a different culture. And then you have the Northeast, which with smaller states, such as Connecticut, Vermont, and the state of Maine. Each of these regions are their own space, their own culture, and within these regions, you have each state, which is also kind of its own country. One person once explained to me that if I looked at the US as a continent in a way, you know, each state has its own culture, each state has its own regulations, each state has its own national parks and whatnot. So each option that you have there is going to give you different elements, different options around you. And we're going to talk about the setting, which connects to the region that you choose, that calls your attention, okay? If you want, you can share with us a little bit about what regions you're interested in, what states, and why. When looking at the setting, right, we looked at the macro, the region, and now when we talk about the setting, you have to reflect on what activities you're going to have inside and outside that campus. Think about 3 general types of settings. We got the urban, right? A big city that has a lot of people and that has lots of museums, perhaps, and public transportation that's accessible and tends to be a higher living cost, okay? Then we have the suburban sort of space where there is maybe a medium-sized population with somewhat accessible transportation and a medium to regular living costs. And then we have the rural spaces that of course have smaller populations, so there is more land to people ratio, and the living costs tend to be lower. Each of these different settings are going to in turn offer you different activities to do around you. Perhaps you're a person that enjoys nature or enjoys big spaces, quiet. Therefore, maybe you want to explore a rural setting in which you have those things. Or maybe you want a lot of action and things to do, and museums and art and whatnot. So maybe you want to consider a larger setting, like an urban setting. Here's the thing though, you have to realize that it's all in connection. You have to think, the campus is going to offer me different kinds of clubs, activities, student-centered, but that university, that college, that school is going to be within another ecosystem, which is the surrounding, the outside of campus. So think about it, reflect on it. What kinds of things do you want to have available to you when you go to your undergraduate experience, okay? Now, academics. Do you have any plans for the future, right? If it's okay if you don't, it's absolutely okay. But it is important to reflect on your academics and your profile as a student. Where are you coming from? Do you have good grades or not? What are your strong suits in your curricular activities, in your subjects at school? Are you really into humanities? Are you really into words? Do you enjoy philosophy or sociology? Or do you like more sciencey stuff? What is your strong suit? And it's okay if you like different subjects and you don't necessarily have to choose one field. Remember at the beginning when I mentioned flexibility and diversity in the curriculum in the US? That's one of the beauties of it, that you'll be able to mix and match and fulfill the different interests that you may have academically. But it is important to do that inward exercise and think about, what do you bring to the table? What is your context as a student? Because here's the thing, it is a two-way interaction where you are offering the school what you bring as a student, as an individual, and the school is offering you what they bring to the table. So it's not only about, well, I can go there, so I'm gonna go there. It's about selling yourself and making that inward exercise. And then you have to think about the short term, short to medium term. When I am there, what do I want to obtain? What do I want my classroom experience to be like? What would I like to the facilities in my university to be like? Do I want large infrastructure with lots of libraries, with lots of buildings and large classroom size? Or would I like a smaller setting where there is maybe one library, but there is also research possibilities for me as an undergraduate student? So all of these elements about the short term to medium term, when you are there, what would you like the academic life to look like, is very important. And that leads us to the long term. Here again, it's okay if you don't know what exactly you want your life to look like. At the end of the day, plans are made to be broken in a way. See it as a draft and have fun with it. What would you like to be doing in the long term? You don't have to, it's not written in stone. You can just have fun with it, consider different options, and trust that the routes that you choose will lead you there or somewhere near there that may be even better than the plan that you had, okay? But it is important to consider, what are my professional options and what would I enjoy to be doing? What would I like to be doing in the long term, so that you can follow that line back and maybe have clues and ideas of what career paths to follow in that short to medium term while you're in the US studying your undergraduate career, okay? So now, talking about finances, it's very important for us to understand that you have to look at finances as an investment in yourself and in your future. And you have to have an honest conversation with yourself, but also with your caregivers or family, in the sense that the origin for your studies in the US are going to come from your personal funds and potentially from scholarships that each institution has available. Now, the scholarships are not guaranteed. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So the first element, the personal funds, is very important. And you have to realize that maybe you're coming in thinking, I absolutely have no money to study in the US or to study university. But you have to realize that for you to exist currently and to be potentially in school, you have to, there's a cost to that. So what is that cost? That can give you a baseline of how much it could be for you to how much it is for you to exist and how much could be allocated for you to continue existing in your undergraduate career in the US. Okay, so this leads then to that conversation, pragmatic, honest, so that you can have a baseline. Okay, and that then brings us to the scholarship possibilities. And I want to highlight the potential part of this. There is no standard amount and no guarantee that you will get a scholarship at a US higher institution. It'll be a matter of the school having availability for financial aid for international students and for you to be a competitive match and meet the requirements for that financial aid and those options for scholarships. Okay, there are different types of scholarships. This is a broad explanation. There are merit-based scholarships that often look at your academic achievements or your standardized test scores or different kinds of elements. Then there's the financial need type scholarships, which look at your economic situation, perhaps economic hardship, and therefore give you assistance. And then there's other types of scholarships that can be, you know, sports or other talents and abilities that you may have. All of these tend to be very competitive. So you have to, like I said before, you have to be a dreamer, but keep your feet on the ground. And honestly, you have to be proactive and pragmatic. If your plan and your dream is to study in the US because you know you'll get a high quality education and an experience out of this world because it'll be so enriching and fun, you have to plan accordingly. And when you have that honest conversation with your parents or your caregivers, think about how you're going to approach that topic. What are you proposing? What is your idea? What can you do? Do you speak English? Okay, so can you find a job and save up while you're in summer break? Cool, right? Or what is your strategy? What are you bringing to the table to find a solution and a plan that best fits your needs? And you also have to realize when looking at scholarships from each institution, which are going to vary from institution to institution, it's valid for you to ask, okay, so these are the options that you have available for international students, but tell me, X institution, how much does an international student end up paying after financial aid? You know, thinking about the question in a different direction can help you out to have a realistic view and therefore have a realistic plan for your finances for your undergraduate degree. Okay, and now we covered a lot of elements, and I know I said this a lot, right? You want to dream big, but you want to stay with your feet on the ground. You have to realize and make that inward reflection of what do you have to offer, what do you bring to the table, and therefore make that connection to what would you like to receive from the institution. If you are able to make that match, to find those best fits institutions, you're going to have a much more successful, more likely, more successful process in which they'll know that you're a match because you did your work, you found them, you know? And you also have to realize, I often like to think about it as an example of, think about tennis shoes. Say you have a pair of shoes that are for working out, and they're great for that. They're really comfortable, they give you support, and they work perfectly for that objective. But maybe you have a more formal interview to attend, and you maybe don't want to wear those shoes because they're not appropriate. So maybe you have a formal set of shoes that fit you really well and give you that, what you're looking for to go to that formal interview or event. Both of those options fit you best. yeah, fit you well, and they give you different results. So when thinking about your best fit for your undergraduate options, you have to realize that it doesn't all have to be the same. It doesn't all have to be the same size. It doesn't all have to be the same region. It doesn't all have to be the same type of university. It can be different types, and you should be happy with all of them. Say you apply to 5 universities and you get admitted to all of them. That's going to be a tough decision, but you're going to be super happy with any of those. But say, on the other hand, you only get admitted to 1. You should still be as happy with that 1 admission because you did your work and you found your best fit institutions. Okay? So maybe now you're wondering, but how am I going to do all of that? So here is three steps you can take. Okay, you have the contact information. We'll share the. I'll walk you through how to find us on the educationusa.state.gov site, and of course on social media. We're going to. You can look at the Define Your Priorities questionnaire at the EducationUSA site. I provided here a shortened link, and we're going to walk through an example. Okay, of a search engine that you can play with. So the example, you can use bigfuture.collegeboard.org and search for different kinds of colleges. You're going to go to the site. It's going to show you something like this. You'll click the search for colleges section over here. Okay. And that's going to lead you to a different window that is going to offer you different categories. Different categories that are going to allow you to play with and apply different filters to then get a result of an X amount of schools that you can then look at. So you get different categories, you know, your test scores, your campus housing, what kinds of sports and activities you may like. And then you get something like this, the sliders. So you're able to move around how important it is. If it's a must, then you want it all the way to the right as a must have. If it's it's medium, I can have it, but I'll be okay without it. You can either unselect that filter or move it a bit closer to the left, all right? This can give you many, many results. Remember, there's thousands of options, but this can also provide a more contained list so you can start exploring and playing around with your choices. So now we're going to move on to our student testimony. We are going to welcome Isaac Rodriguez from Costa Rica. He is joining us to share a little bit about his experience and finding his best fit. He is admitted to Tufts University, and he is going to share with us a couple insights. So, Isaac, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Isaac Rodriguez. I'm from Pérez Celedón, Costa Rica, which is in the southern part of the country. I grew up as the youngest out of 5 siblings. I studied in a STEM-centered high school in which I fell in love with science and technology. And I learned English at the Access program of the US Embassy. And right now I got accepted at Tufts University School of Engineering, and I will be majoring in electrical engineering next fall.
Thanks so much, Isaac. So would you like to share with us a little bit about how you got a sense of the personality of Tufts and how did you play around with that?
All right. So when I was actually feeling like the filters that you just mentioned it of College Board, I was finding out that it was a really good questionnaire because you find a lot of colleges that you may match with. But actually, I felt like I was really interested in the people that I was going to socialize once in college, you know, like who are going to be my friends there. So something that was really important to me was the people. And I was starting to to know better the people at the colleges once I got at the social media of the universities. Because when I got in the social media of the university, let's say Facebook pages, Instagram pages, Twitter pages, I start to have like more interaction to what were the student profile that already are accepted or are already students at those colleges. So, navigating towards the social media helps me a lot because that assists me in all the process to keep always like on touch on what is happening right now on the campus and what are the students doing on the campus.
Yeah, very fun. And tell us a little bit about the memes trend. How did you find that? What led you to that?
All right. I describe as a person that as every teenager, I really love memes. I really, I like normal things. I really enjoy memes. I really enjoy listening to music. I really enjoy Netflix, but over everything memes. So in the social media, I always find out people sharing memes regarding, the college situations and things like that. And I remember that I used to navigate to, Instagram pages that were actually like, for example, tough memes 2020 of tough meme 2019. And in those pages, they were like sharing currently memes of the current situation. And it was really interesting to me to keep in touch with the humor that the colleges has, because I feel like it is like a great way to get in to get in touch of the students' personalities. As to, for example, I used to use a lot an application called Reddit, because there I used to, to see like opinions about things that are happening on campus, things that are happening regarding special topics in the colleges, in the specific colleges. And on Reddit, I used to see like, situations that maybe the colleges are not discussing because are not important, but are just, like normal student days in the life of them. So that helped me a lot to keep in touch, like to the means personalities of the universities, because for me that's really important in a way, because I felt like in that way I was like, achieving the best match to my personality.
Cool. Thanks so much for sharing. I think it's very special. Well, memes are awesome, but I think it's a very interesting trend and fun aspect. So, Isaac, I remember you had mentioned that you also you stayed connected, or you looked to connect with the university. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you went about it?
That's really, really important, actually. One of the most important things is to, to make to the university even before you are applying, because in that way, the colleges are having like a sense of who you are. Because, for example, in my case, I used to be, subscribed in all the email lists of all the colleges that I decided that I was going to apply. I was subscribed in those email lists, and thanks to be subscribed to those email lists, I actually remember that last year I received an email that Tufts University was about to come to Costa Rica, and they came to Costa Rica and they did an admission session, and I have the opportunity to participate and actually to talk to one of the admission counselors at Tufts University. And that was really important because that was like a like a positive point in my application, because the person that was reading my application already knew who I am, who I were at that moment of the application. So it is really important, to keep in touch of email lists, to be like subscribed maybe to the YouTube channels of the universities, because in that way you will be keeping receiving emails, and you will be keeping like receiving the notifications of all the information and the updates that the colleges are constantly doing.
Thank you so much. This is really useful, and I think that personalization of showing the university or college, the school, that you're a real person and that you have real interest in them, and not just, you know, fluffy emails or fluffy communication is really important, right?
Yeah, that's really right. That's really correct, actually, because you know, it is really important to have that contact to the university, because I wouldn't say that you would like to apply to a college that you just know what does the college pay as specific, what the college page says. You know, like you are not going to apply to Tufts University and just look at the Tufts web page. You are going to also look to a lot of media, a lot of online resources that can provide you more information to make your application more personalized, because most of us as an international students, maybe we do not have the opportunity to visit campus before applying. So, you know, using all the resources available in the internet is really important, because that's like the best way, and not to say like maybe the only, that us, the international students, can have access to the real scene of the college, to the real environment that the students transmit to the, you know, to kind of feel the vibe of the college.
Absolutely, getting a real sense of the personality, right?
Yeah,
Well,
for
thanks so
example,
much. Oh yeah, tell me.
yeah, for example, one of the reasons why I choose Tufts when I was trying to do like my match with my personality is that I start to read a lot in the Reddit application. Everyone said like, oh my God, this college is so quirky. The people here is really unconventional, and the people here is really extrovert, and they are always talking, they are always socializing, they are always, you know, like getting out of the comfort zone. And that is something that really mattered to me. And thanks to all the social media and all the social and online resources that I use, I have the opportunity to get in touch with that students scene.
Yes, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Isaac, for your contribution and your advice and suggestions. And once more, congratulations, and I hope you're
Thank you.
enjoying the process and the excitement of the near future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thanks so much. So if you have any questions about for Isaac or about what Isaac just shared, please continue to share them with us. We're just going to kind of wrap it up and conclude. Okay, so this is the to-do list that I proposed to you. So first of all, remember Education USA is here for you throughout all of the steps in this process. The first item in the to-do list, like we mentioned a couple times in this session, is we are sharing a form that you can go to and fill out. It's really short. It's just basic information so that we can stay in touch and provide any further events that we are planning, and for you to stay tuned and informed. Okay? Please reach out to your Education USA Advising Center. You can go to the site that is showing up there, educationusa.state.gov. You can continue and write / find an advising center, or when you go to the homepage of Education USA, at the top right corner, you'll find that tab that says Find an Advising Center. Then you can look for your country, and then you will get the contact information for your advising center in your country. I highly, highly suggest you reach out to them, because we'll be happy to help you out and meet you where you're at, and provide any information, resources, and insights to make this process a lot more fun and a lot more informed and a lot more efficient. Okay? And lastly, please remember that this is about exploring what you want. What would you like? And the beauty of the US higher education system is that you can get it. There are so many options. There are so many ways to adjust the curriculum and the paths that you can choose, that you can meet the expectations and needs and desires that you want. So remember to explore this, and please stay tuned with our social media so that you don't miss all of the other events that we put together for you. There are some coming up. We'll have a workshop to go over different techniques, tools that you can use to start defining your options for your best fit. We're going to have a regional event. We have different types of fairs, and so it's important for you to stay in touch with us through social media or through our emails that you can find at our educationusa.state.gov site. So now we're going to move on to any questions that we may have received. So I'm going to ask my colleague Mo Burke, who's also joining us all the way from Costa Rica, and to share any questions that we may have received.
Yes. Okay. So we have a lot of great questions today. I've been typing them all here. So the first question we have is actually for Isaac. So if Isaac could come back for a second. Isaac, Kevin would like to know, where will you stay once you arrive to the United States at Tufts University? Where exactly will you be staying? Maybe you could explain how that works for first-year students.
All right, so in Tufts University, all first and, well, freshman and sophomore years, that it will be first and second years of college, are required to live on campus. Then on tier and it will be junior and senior year, you can decide to live in campus or off campus. So in the third and fourth year of college, it's up to you, but on the first and second year is it's like obligatory to live on campus.
Very good. And another question for Isaac from Katie M. She wants to know, when you began this process, what level of English do you think you had, and how did you work to improve it over the course of your application process?
All right, so, well, I applied with Mo, that is the one that is talking here. So actually, how can I say it? I am an alumni of the Access program, which is a program of the US Embassy. It's a really good program. Most of the English that I learned was there, and actually one of my English teachers was Mo there. So I met Mo, and then I graduated actually from high school in 2018. So I decided to take a gap year in order to do all the application process. And actually, taking that gap year helped me a lot because I felt like I was like kind of, you know, like I felt like I have to improve my English at a better level, you know, to feel free to speak it with whichever person that speak English. Because before 2018, I would say that probably I would just speak it like in class or with my professors. But then thanks by this application process, I have the opportunity to actually, you know, reach out to college advisors and things like that. And, you know, like just being every night writing essays for the college application, all this process helps you a lot to improve your English. But at my perspective, as long as you can communicate in a classroom, it will be enough for you to study in the US.
And one more question for Isaac. Katia wants to know if you received financial aid from Tufts University, and if so, how? So maybe you could explain the type of financial aid that you received.
All right. So I decided, one of the reasons why I decided to apply to Tufts University is because Tufts University gives you the promise that once you are admitted, they are going to cover 100% of your financial need. The financial need basically is the cost of the college minus the expected amount that your parents can contribute to the college. So let's say that the college has a price of $10,000 and your parents can contribute $1,000. So the college gave you the promise that as you are admitted, they are going to give you $9,000. All right. So that's how Tufts works. So I would say that the financial package that I received at Tufts was really good. It was a really good offer that covers most, not to say all my expenses.
Isaac, do all universities work like Tufts University? Do they all give scholarships like that?
Not because, for example, Tufts is merely based on financial need, while other colleges are only based in merit scholarships, like was mentioned it, like, you know, like scholarships related with sports, related with arts and things like that, but not all colleges not work in the same way.
Very good. Thank you so much, Isaac. Maria Luisa, we have a question for you. We have a student from Panama whose name is Carlos, and he asked, what region would you recommend for Carlos in terms of geographical regions?
Well, that's gonna depend on you. Do you like warm weather or not? You know, it can be a matter of, for example, maybe I have a health situation that can make it hard to breathe if there is very low temperatures. So perhaps I wanna, you know, stay away from those northern states that have very strong winters and very strong seasons. And maybe I want to look at the southern states that have a more mild or warmer weather. Or maybe I've never seen snow and I want to see snow for 6 months of the year. So I maybe look at higher up there states that are closer to Canada and have the full 4 seasons, strong seasons experience. So it's a matter of what would you like. And like I said before, it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? The US is so big, there's so many options and so many different cultures and weathers within the state, different national parks, different elements that can affect and contribute to your experience, that you don't have to stay within one region. Maybe you want to mix it up and choose different schools in different regions.
So we also have, backing away from geography and looking more at the financial part of applying to school, we have a few questions. Katie Moran wanted to go over scholarships again, and Katya asked if she needs 100% of her financial need to be met, does that mean she needs to apply to a very selective university? So maybe we could go over the types of financial need, financial aid again.
Yeah. Okay. Full rides are very hard to get and very selective. Yes? There are universities that offer full rides, I guess, but you have to realize that those schools are going to have a lot of people applying to those schools. So you really do have to check yourself and see if your profile matches the expectations and the desired student for that school. You would need, you know, outstanding grades, a very complete, wholesome, interesting profile, and you're going to have to be highlight, you know, to be noticed among a lot of students that are looking for those few options for full rides. I'm going to go back to the finances slide so we can look at the potential categories for scholarships. There is merit-based, which look into basically your academic achievements or your results in your exams and in your standardized exams that you take. Then there's financial need, okay, which is how much money would I need? Maybe I don't need any money, right? Or maybe I need all of the money that would cost for me to attend that school. And there are schools, like Isaac mentioned, that are need blind, which means they don't look at your financial need to admit you, okay? But one, that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to meet that need, you know? But in the other sense, it can mean if we admit you, we will give you all of the money that you require. Okay? It can be $5 or it can be $50,000. Those schools, just as you're thinking, are highly selective because they offer that. So those are the schools that have an acceptance rate of 7%. From 100 students that apply to that school, only 7% get admitted. And that's when being that inward check. What do you bring to the table? What are your grades? What is your context? What extracurricular activities do you have? What kind of recommendation letters are you going to be able to get? All of those elements, they're not just going to look at one aspect. They want to see the whole of you, all of your colors and nuances and all of the traits that you bring to the table in order to make that decision. I would highly suggest you really reach out to your Education USA advising center so that you can get a more personalized check to establish your options and perhaps improve your profile or work on your student profile to see what are your possibilities.
Great. So we have a few more questions for Isaac. If Isaac wants to come back and give Maria Luisa a break from speaking for a second. Thank you, Maria Luisa. So Isaac, Blanca wants to know, how many universities did you apply to when you applied last year to universities and colleges?
I applied to 8 universities, and I tried to apply, like to a diverse pool of university, like rich schools, dream schools, and fit schools. Schools that you have like really high opportunities to get in, schools that you actually are like in the limit to get in, and dream schools are schools that probably are really hard to get in, but you still want to give them a chance.
So Isaac, in your opinion, and Maria Luisa can also answer this, is it really worth it to dream and aim high to a prestigious university like MIT or Harvard?
It is definitely worth it, because you never know, how all the application is going to be read for you behind the door of the application office. Even though you can say, all right, maybe I do not have like high standardized tests, or maybe I do not have like this factor that the factor that people say that everyone that applies to MIT comes from STEM centers high schools or such thing like that. It's really worth it to apply to aim high, because you have just to give it a chance and to let your dreams to go high, and to let them explore all the possibilities. And I will feel like applying to those colleges that are really selective is really worth it, because if you get in, you will get really good scholarship, you will get really good financial aid, you will get really good worthy education that then is going to really pay you off.
Okay, so Isaac, but would you say that you also have to be realistic? For example, you did not apply, out of the 8 universities you applied to, you did not apply to 8 Ivy League schools.
Exactly. It's not like I'm going to apply to 8 colleges, and the 8 colleges that I'm going to apply are the 8 Ivy Leagues, and then I'm not going to get in any of the colleges, and then I'm going to do like what I'm going to do. You have to be realistic in the way that you already have like maybe not a statistic, but facts that you have already worked on, and that probably are easily accessible for some colleges.
Right.
And I just wanted to add to that. When I said dream big but stay grounded, that's the key. You should aim high, but you also should be realistic and make sure that all of the effort that you put into your application process leads you somewhere, all right? And Education USA, you know, suggests, advises that you apply to 5 to 6 schools, because that is a manageable number in which you can really put your effort and dedication into your essays and preparation, etc. And within those schools, you know, you want to be happy if only one of them admits you, and you also want to be super happy if all of them admit you. But you have to realize you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. You want to diversify, and you want to make sure that that effort that you put into your application process leads you somewhere. So I actually got some questions, Mo, directly to me. And
I have one more for Isaac, if we could finish, and then we can go to all of those. Isaac, what are some extracurricular activities that I can do in Costa Rica to have a better application?
All right, a lot of volunteer work you can do. In my case, I love dogs. I really love dogs, and one of the volunteering experience that I have is that I went to volunteering in Guadalupe, Costa Rica. It is a place called Casita Azul. There, I have the opportunity to go every Friday to you know, to work to help out that are child or probably recently abused, because you know are like stray dogs that are on the streets and all this stuff. So it was a really amazing opportunity to do that volunteer. In my case, I attended a STEM center high school, Colegio Científico. So there I have the opportunity to participate in math, physics, and chemistry Olympiads. I never won any medal, but at least I participate. So it was a really, you know, it is an accessible thing to the activity that you can do. What else? You can tutoring. You can do tutoring to your friends, actually to your classmates, and that will count as an extracurricular. You can do, you know, social work in different areas of the country. There is a lot of opportunities. For example, actually, when I was in the Access, even also specific, even if this volunteer was not specifically for the application process, but when I was in the Access, I remember that I did volunteer at the at the at the neighborhood. You know, just like in the gymnasium and the communal gymnasium and all this stuff. I was cleaning those places, and it counts as an extracurricular activities.
Right. So that could be another factor of things to consider when you're looking at universities, is what kind of clubs and organizations and volunteering do they have at those universities, and do they interest you? Maria Luisa, I know you said you had a few questions, and then I have a few more to finish our questions.
Yeah, one is about the SAT. Isaac, did you take the SAT, and how many times did you take it?
I took the SAT twice. I would recommend not to take it like a lot of times, because, well, even though if you take let's say 3 times, you will get like a better super score, because you know SATs are divided in the reading section and the math section. Let's say that the first time you got 600 on math and 500 on reading, and then you got 500 on math and 600 on reading, then they will just take into account the higher grades. So I would say that you will get to a point that you will actually practice a lot, but you will get to a point when you are practicing that you realize that it is like let's say like the comfort grade maybe, or like the safe grade that you are getting, that probably it will be better if you start to use your time to working on your college essays rather than just studying for the SATs, because the SATs are important but are just a factor of the application.
Yes, you are absolutely right. It's just an element, and it is important that you prepare for them. And again, remember, you can reach out to your Education USA Advising Center so they can help you out navigate and answer any of those questions. We are going to take one more question because we've reached the end of our session. Again, please remember to reach out to us through social media or the website. One person asked if you're accepted to a school, if that automatically means that you get the student visa. This is a very important question that the answer is no. You being admitted to a US university or college does not guarantee that you will get the student visa. The student visa is a different kind of visa from the tourist one, and you need to do your own application process to the visa through the consulate in your country. This means when you go to your appointment, you bring the forms that the university gave you because you were admitted, and then you prove that you have the money and the strategy and plan for while you're there. You know, maybe you don't have a full ride, right? And you have to prove that you have the money to be there, to pay for the remaining part of tuition and living, etc. And the consulate can still choose to not give you your student visa. Base case scenario, you do get your student visa and then you're on your way. So it's important for you to navigate all of these elements. Again, within each country, there are different regulations. So please reach out to your Education USA advisor. There are different elements to consider, and I'm sure there's lots of questions in regards to this. But please reach out to us. We are happy to help. We are always sharing different kinds of information and cultural elements from the US on our social media, and would be happy to talk with you and hear you out. Again, I would like to say thank you for being here. This is a really valuable experience for all of us in Education USA, and I hope that you learned a couple of things and that you'll be able to apply a couple of the tools and maybe do that reflection exercise and explore what would you like and have fun with it. Remember, having fun with it is very important. And please stay in touch. We'll be happy to respond to you. And yes, see you next time. My name is Maria Luisa Garnica, and I am saying hi from Education USA Guatemala. Have a nice evening or afternoon. Bye-bye.